How broken hiring systems rewired our sense of belonging, algorithmic job searching, and the breaking of the social contract. Hi, my name is Sarah Trumbull. I am the founder and CEO of the Job Applicant Perspective, the first anonymous user reviews for job ads across the U.S. This is a level of go-to-market awareness as well as public service for all the gaslighting out there. I'm driving at a level of a paradigm shift that's just rather big. And that requires kind of making this type of info available to as wide an audience as possible. This kind of work comes from my Substack, which I encourage you to like, follow, share. And in written form, it goes out twice a week to journalists, economists, sociologists, et cetera, and so forth. It's being read by a lot, but, you know, paradigm shifts or paradigm restorations, as I think of this, require a large group of people to make changes. And this is me trying to meet more people where they are. Some people read, some people listen, some people watch. Different strokes, different folks, So starting from the top here, use a little Harry Potter reference, but it which must not be named. A single mom applies to 378 jobs. Silence. 257 were hours she spent away from her children, carefully formatting resumes and cover letters. 121 were exhausted quick applies. The results were always the same. She doesn't spend time on her resumes anymore. A recent graduate's resume, after spending 2 hours perfecting it with costly software, gets auto-rejected by an algorithm within minutes. They are on application 390 like this. A skilled technician fails a personality quiz for the same job they've done successfully for 15 years. Imagine auditioning for your own life over and over with no audience in the room. This isn't just about jobs. This is about belonging and what happens when the signals we rely on to find meaning, security, and connection are broken. Who this is for. This isn't just a job seeker problem. It's a cultural fracture affecting everyone tied to work, stability, and identity. Job seekers and workers facing broken signals, ghost jobs, and endless rejections and algorithmic-driven silence. Employers and small businesses paying for visibility while drowning in noise and unverified applicants. Recruiters and HR teams navigating opaque systems where success metrics hide structural inefficiencies. Educators and workforce boards preparing students for credentials that may no longer guarantee access to jobs. They don't. It's not about the skills they're teaching. It's about the ability to get jobs. Policymakers and economists modeling economies on flawed hiring data, missing the hidden social and cultural costs. Communities and families experiencing downstream instability when work, belonging, and dignity are stripped away. If your life, business, or institution depends on people being able to find work that sees their worth, this is your story too. Core thesis, the dysfunction in hiring isn't merely economic, it's cultural. It's reshaping how we understand competence, connections, identity, and worth. When signals break, meaning collapses. Professionalism shifts from competence, to performative silence. Self-worth gets tethered to invisible scoring systems, not real contribution. Structural failures get internalized as personal failures. One rejection, one ignored resume, one algorithmic no at a time. We've outsourced belonging to platforms, and the cost is human dignity. 3 major story threads. Number 1, the performativity trap. Hiring platforms reward keyword mimicry, not skill. Applicant tracking systems, ATSs, rank resumes by matching static templates, not human potential. Job seekers adapt, curating themselves to fit invisible rubrics they cannot see. Tweaking language to match job posts word for word. Optimizing resumes for machines instead of managers. Paying for visibility boosts, certifications, coasting, and templates just to survive an opaque scoring system. This is not evaluation, it is algorithmic theater, a gamified performance where success means sounding hireable, not being the right fit. Job seekers are effectively purchasing access to job ads through the ATS, paying not with money, but with labor. Keyword rewrites, formatting tricks, quizzes, and resume optimization just to get through the gate. When the ATS blocks them, it functions like a defective Stripe checkout, like Venmo, that wouldn't accept Visa or wouldn't accept MasterCard or whatever it is, the thing. The payment fails, the candidate disappears, and the employers lose qualified people before any human ever sees them, and nobody knows where it ended or why. Employers hiding the ATS system from the labor force is part and parcel as to why their talent shortages and resume spam exist. This level of information asymmetry is the only logical solution. Either give up or start spamming resumes. Of course they spam. Of course they do. When you make the gate something that nobody knows what it is, and even if they did know, they wouldn't know the algorithm, they don't have an opportunity to do anything else because they're just playing with a slot machine. Data point, up to 75% of applications are filtered out before any human reads them, according to Harvard Business School in 2021's Hidden Workers. Shame, silence, and disconnection, number 2. This isn't just inefficiency, it's identity erosion. When rejection comes without explanation hundreds of times, the nervous system rewires itself. I'm not good enough. Something's wrong with me. Everyone else must be better. Shame pushes people into silence. Silence fragments communities, and fragmented communities cannot see the scale of harm because everyone thinks it's only happening to them. This isolation isn't random, it's structural. Platforms profit when applicants compete invisibly, not collectively. Employers gain leverage when silence is normalized. Governments built no infrastructure to track transparency or fairness, so job seekers absorb these psychological and financial costs alone. This is the farmers' fields, and this is what we did to the labor force, our entire citizenry. Like, what is a government for, if not to help people eat? And for them to allow this to happen is a choice. Imagine if any other market operated this way. Flower vendors treating girlfriends like an annoying distraction from selling flowers. De Beers acting like brides-to-be are irrelevant to the diamond business. Disney resenting that children expect to enjoy the rides. Absurd, right? Those businesses would collapse instantly. The irony is that the online job market has done to themselves what they've done to job seekers, aka severed the relationship to their own identity. The talent solutions industry has forgotten that they're not just vendors in a two-sided market. Job seekers are the stakeholders they were created to serve, the guests at the restaurant employers paid to build, not the food on the plates. When a job seeker on application 4 finding work is far less profitable to job platforms, recruiters, ATS companies than a job seeker on application 425 finding work, you understand exactly why online hiring is so inefficient and so inhumane. Because the people we're doing this to don't have the extra time to waste, which is why this is the level of amoral and unethical things happening in the job market is off the charts. One of the most unethical marketplaces to exist in modern history to me. This is why market disruption is possible and repair is so needed. The market doesn't just need to change its treatment of job seekers, it needs to remember what it is. Genuinely, it's like people don't know what long hauling is, what cab drivers would do when they saw a tourist who was never going to be there again. Of course they do that. People, not because no one's villains, because people are people. The death of meaningful work, number 3. When platforms optimize for engagement, not outcomes, skill alignment collapses. People adapt by taking whatever role they can, gig work, filler jobs, underemployment, while identity and dignity erode in the process. The cultural narrative shifts from I am my craft to I am my keywords. From I belong because I contribute to I belong if the algorithm approves. This is why job searching feels existential now. The hiring system doesn't just decide who works, it decides who gets to be seen as worthy. It gets personal because it is personal, precisely because we have systematically removed its capacity to be communal. Why this matters, this isn't just a broken workflow, it is a cultural fracture. Individual level, millions question their competence, feeling depression, burnout, and mass labor force exits. Cultural level, a generation has been trained to distrust institutions, employers, and themselves. Of course they do, because they're being demonstrably, wildly untrustworthy, epically. Genuinely, I say it before and I'll say it again. The quickest way to tell me that you don't know anything about online hiring is to claim that job seekers don't want to work it. Or like say, well, I mean, if they would only just stop right there. You could just say, I don't know what I'm talking about. And we could go from there, because that's all it is. It's not expertise anymore. It's the lack of it, which makes people say those things. You are showing people that you don't know what you think you know. And everybody who's aware of the system understands it. The only people who think that's still true are the people who are just as disconnected from reality. Civic level, when belonging breaks, civic cohesion breaks with it. Of course it does. We have departments of labor, FTC, Bureau of Labor Statistics, and 50 departments of labor that allowed this horrific industry to be grown and not be regulated. The level of epic betrayal involved, of course, they don't trust you. You've been nothing but untrustworthy, not even being able to examine millions of people out of work because of an ATS system. Ghost jobs, 1 in 3 jobs on the shelves being acknowledged to be nonsense. And we allowed it to happen and said it was job seekers instead of regulating them. But Jesus, a decade of acre-lost lemons in the labor market with people who didn't have time to spare. And we critiqued them. Didn't even examine platform initiatives, platform incentives, basic Econ 101. Genuinely reading academic reports and public policy on this score is like watching people who clean their data, who clearly can do differential equations, be unable to add, to do basic addition, economic addition, by examining platform incentives. It's wild to me, the level of reality disconnect involved in this. The job market isn't just where people find work, it's where they find identity, dignity, and connection. And when it fails, everything else fails too. It is the farmer's fields. What do you think is going to happen when people have no way to access work? It's not confusing. It's what a society is full. That's why people gather. If they think that people are actively trying to keep them from being able to feed their children, which is what is happening daily. That's all it is. The last 20 years of digital labor policy constitute an epic but silent betrayal of the social contract. As hiring and social platforms train users to perform deference for access, obey the algorithm, please the employer, hide dissent, they normalize compliance and obedience as the price of participation in eating. What we're now calling a political crisis is, in fact, the logical consequence of an economic one, a citizenry conditioned to equate silence with safety, opacity with don't ask questions, it's your, and submission with belonging. This is not just a labor market failure, it's a social one. You can check the research. I put some here from McGraw-Hill, Wall Street Journal, Harvard, and my own stuff there. But TJAB, this is where the job applicant perspective steps in, not just as a tool, but as a cultural reset button. When we create hiring platforms to solve employer needs, we get engagement. When we create hiring platforms to solve job seeker needs, we get resolution and harmony for everyone. It's almost like creating Disney World to solve employers' needs means you have to keep sending kids, or parents' needs means you have to keep sending kids to Disney World. Creating Disney Worlds to solve kids' needs. It's like I said, like they forgot what they are. Like they legit don't know what they are. What TJAP builds is for job seekers, crowdsourced reviews restore the information asymmetry that platforms exploit, giving applicants the same transparency buyers have on every other marketplace. Watching people choose a movie with IMDb, find a restaurant with Yelp, order an Uber to get there, tell job seekers that they don't need that same kind of like market respect. It's wild to me. For communities, peer witness replaces algorithmic isolation. When people can compare outcomes, shame dissolves into pattern recognition. It's not just me, it's the system. Even if you see that you want your dream job at Amazon comes up. Oh, okay. I applied, but I get a chance to see when I apply the last 100 people only 20% of them got to go to the next stage. So when I get rejected, I don't actually take it as an internal thing. I just be like, okay, well, I'm part of that group. It gives you information. For local businesses, small employers gain the visibility they have on Yelp or Etsy, standing out through authentic reputation rather than bot placement. For municipalities, cities reclaim visibility into their own labor markets, enabling them to protect residents, support legitimate businesses, and plan economically without dependence on private platforms that profit from opacity. TJAP creates something we've been missing for over 2 decades. A collective mirror for applicants, employers, and policymakers where everyone can finally see what's real. Like, I know people are going to say, well, job seekers like, I agree. And now you'll have a chance to compare instead of having to just take the vendor's word for it. It's like a tourist complains that I think that cabbie drove me around the block, and people are like, no, a cabbie would never drive someone around a block when, doing so would increase their fare and they'll never see you again. What? You can talk about job seekers, all you want, but the people in the recruiting are literally paid to throw somebody else under the bus because that's their profit stream. So of course they would. You get more information when you have a whole story. And it's not just about the winning and the losing. It's about the pattern. The way through here is the hiring system doesn't just reject applications. It tells you, be silent, your truth openly honored is the end of your access to human connection. And in not speaking, even unintentionally, it trains you to reject yourself. The very first connection you lose, the very first community you lose, is trust in your own self-experience. And the only way out is through embodied refusal to uphold that. Not just intellectual understanding, not strategic planning, just speaking your truth out loud, saying, this is what happened when I applied here. I was on application 541, and this is how it went. This is real. You don't need it to be profound. You don't need it to change anything. You don't even need anyone to respond. You just need to stop swallowing it. Because every time you speak what happened instead of hiding it, you practice self-acceptance, the raw kind, the kind that says, this is my experience, warts and all. Handle it. And the act of repairing a relationship with yourself is how you start repairing your community. When someone else reads what you wrote and thinks, oh God, me too. And when they see your truth and feel less alone in theirs. And when they decide to speak because you did. That's how relational empathy and communal reality gets built, not through strategy, but through 1,000 small acts of witnessed expression. Your truth spoken aloud becomes space for someone else's. Their courage becomes permission for yours. Start here, the job applicant perspective. Not because you know what will happen next, but because your truth deserves honor, self-honor, regardless of what happens next. The opposite of algorithmic silence is human voice. And yours matters, not someday, not when the system is fixed, right now, as it is, imperfect and true. Thank you very much. Please like, follow, and share, and leave a comment. As ever, my blogs are meant to be an invitation to conversation. Not gospel. You can engage with it as falsifiable data. But I write from my own experience too, because I'm a systems theorist and I have been studying this system. I find it absolutely a dragon. But I can't not know what I see. And that's why I'm here. It's a pretty easy sell, to be honest. When you think about cui bono, who benefits, and you ask yourself, ghosting, talent shortage, and the resume spam, the who benefits is a pretty straightforward thing. This is not to say who caused our properties emerge in complex dynamic systems without intent, but they don't get cleaned up for a reason sometimes, It's kind of where I'm at. Anyway, thank you very much. Please like, follow, share, repost, and have a good one. Be kind out there. We don't need to have work in order to have each other.